You know, the ancient Greeks defined humanities as being broken into and having several disciplines that had to do with history, philosophy, literature, and the arts. And we who collect coins and consider ourselves numismatists deal with the humanities. In our little hands, we have a piece of humanity. You look at a piece of the copper that we have, and you've got the history. How many years ago were they made? Why were they made? You have the philosophy. Why is liberty on the coin? What does liberty mean? And on the liberty caps, you have the cap itself. And what does that cap represent? You go back to ancient Rome, and we know, if you get involved in it, what the cap did. You have the cap also in the French Revolution, a prominent part there, again, for what it represents. So we have philosophy also involved in our little pieces of humanity. We also have literature. There's a lot written about coins, about the authors who, former collectors and things like that. So we have humanity right in our hand. And so it's very appropriate that our next speaker has devoted her professional career to the humanities. And I just want to say a little bit about Melanie Eckford Prossor. Melanie lives now in California. She got her degrees, both her undergraduate degrees and her postgraduate degrees at UCLA. And her career includes all aspects of critical thinking. In fact, when I was looking her up on Google, and I Googled her name, there were a lot of students who had put in analysis of what they thought of her teaching abilities. And there was not a negative one. This is typical, very typical of the type of comment were made by her students where she was a professor. She is truly an inspiring professor and makes you understand concepts by critical thinking. And that's what we have here, somebody who is really tremendous in setting forth how to analyze things and how to look at them at a different way than you would normally look with them. And that's what we do with our coins. Melanie is now the Director of Curriculum and Outreach at the Liberty Cap Foundation. As I mentioned before, she was a professor, in fact, an English professor, an honors director, and an academic senate president. She's very excited, as she says, to be working with the Liberty Cap Foundation to develop curriculum for teachers at all school levels. She enjoys the research necessary and is working on features and articles in the website of the Liberty Cap Foundation. She says she's been very lucky and to have specimens of these wonderful 1794s that Walter collected and put together, and she can hold them in her hands, these links to humanity. So without further ado, I want to, and I'm very honored to present to us, Melanie. Okay.
Thank you, Lou. Hello, everyone. I'm short, and so when I first started teaching, there was a demonstration video made, which is truly horrifying. You're a TA, you're trying to decide, is graduate school really a good idea? And then they bring in a video. And I was here, you know? And after that, they said, never, never, ever get behind one of these things. So I'm just going to be sort of standing off here to the side. The Liberty Cap Foundation, I hope this looks like no numismatic website you've ever seen. We are a tiny, small, friendly numismatic site. And what that really means is we have Trina Husak, Walt's daughter, who knows a lot about coins. We are lucky to have a number of friends in the audience, and we go to them regularly and say, hey, what is this? Please tell me about this. And I am learning. So this is my second EAC, and I can't believe I'm quite standing up here, so I'm humbled. And what I get wrong, I mean, one of the great things about being an academic is, you know, when you get something wrong, someone comes and explains it to you, and that's great, right? So if I get anything wrong, you have any ideas, please please come and talk to us. It's about learning. So the Liberty Cap Foundation's mission is cultivating curiosity about coins, culture, and history. And that's really what our goal is. And especially this word for me, curiosity. Lou read through probably the ratemyprofessor.com, which is really the most terrifying of things, right? Comments. My favorite one, which finally aged off, is, "She's such a bitch," because she prosecuted me for plagiarism. No, it wasn't that he didn't plagiarize. It was simply that I decided to prosecute him for plagiarism. So that one aged off. But I hope what a lot of them talked about, and I think what fascinates me about standing at EACs and coming to conventions and listening to the seminars, is curiosity. We just heard Tom Dent talking about the way virtual Grellman can allow us to sort of satiate our fascination with, well, what's the edge of this coin? What's the edge of this, right? So this is what our mission is. And we're doing that in a number of different ways. Our website, and so I'm going to take you on a quick tour of our website. Let me double check. So I'm going to let you guys have a choice here. I can take you on a tour, or I can show you, this is 1.39 seconds of the website when it began, so it's a little more robust now. So it's up to you. This one? Okay. We'll see it. So it's a little more robust than this. So we have resources here, resources for learning, and this is, we have 3 sections. This is the content section, and this includes a lot of curriculum. So, and I'm going to scroll there for you. Here's the numismatics. We have a post on Mark Borkart's. Okay, contributed to that for us. Thank you for that. And so this really is a question of where do I begin? Obviously, you guys are so far underway. You're past the underway. But where did it come from? A whole section on provenance. A little blurb there on that. This was with Mark's help, we have that. And then flips. And we've added some things since then, and we'll keep adding some things. So it's really, in some ways, a gateway for people who might be a little intimidated before they go to, ANA.themoney.org has sort of rebranded itself. But ours is sort of friendly. So we have 2 types of funding, and I'm going to talk to you about those in a moment. We have 1794 microgrants of $1,794. And then next year we're going to start the Walter Cusack Scholarship. And there we go. Okay, so what I'd like to talk to you about today, why is this not? There we go. So what I want to talk to you about today is one of the things that we're exploring here, which is the representation of liberty. So I am an English professor, and so I come at numismatics from this idea of signs and texts and how we read them. And so, as you guys know, and I think you could probably all have a chorus of this, when we look at this cent, she's supposedly in a fright, right? So I want you guys all, I mean this, I want you to compose your face in this face. Do any of you feel frightened? Now I want someone to show me the sign of horror, which is that I'm speaking for 2 hours, not 1. Right? Sign of horror, please. And I think you'll agree, there's no fright here. There's absolutely no fright here. And so what I want to suggest, and so here we've got, a 19th century version of Patrick Henry saying, "Give me liberty or give me death." What I want to suggest is that liberty as a revolutionary principle is unstable and dangerous. It's a revolutionary principle. You say, "Give me liberty or give me death," and you have to mean it. You have to be willing to go onto a battlefield and fight the English. What happens in the face of that when you decide to stick liberty on a coin in a country that has to become stable? How do you make that into a principle of stability? And so, by the way, if you think I've got any of this wrong or you want to participate, call out, right? No hands necessary. So we go from this scent, and I love her, perhaps because when my hair's long, it really resembles that. And a certain mother in the audience spent a lot of time trying to brush it into some semblance of neatness, and it only looked worse. So I think there's a wildness to her here, and I think there's a braveness to this face. Her eyes are looking straight forward into the future. But, again, how do you make that into a stable country? And here's what you do to it. You take it and you make it into a domestic young woman. And if you look at the movement from this one, who's markedly younger, right, than the previous coin, and then you look here, now she has the trappings of femininity. Her hair is done, right? She's got the liberty cap, absolutely, and we know what that means. But I would argue that what's happening here is an increasing domestication of her. And as you move into the 19th century, she becomes more matronly, right? She gains a double chin. You end up with her in this almost, I'm going to come to that image in a moment, but an almost imperial vision of her hair, right? She's wearing a tiara by the end. So to go from that woman here to the tiara, oops, I'm gonna skip. Okay, no. All right, ignore that. To go from this woman, then eventually to the tiara, is, I would argue, a question about how we think of liberty as a principle. Right? So, if you were at Bill Eckford's talk yesterday, anyone there? Right? He's defining liberty there. One of the great things about working for the foundation is, if you love research, it's the ultimate thing because you get to go down all these rabbit holes and then you write a blog and you're completely content until people engage with you and tell you, So there is an argument that's made by a woman named Amanda Potterfield, and she argues that liberty, as a British principle, is aligned with nature. So it is in the human nature to have liberty. And this is the principle that is encased in the Magna Carta. So in English understandings of liberty, which go back, right, to the Magna Carta, New York, right, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, right, Drawer, Carter, the Magna Carta with my accent. When you go back to that liberty, it's natural. What she argues happens when you bring that British understanding of liberty to America, especially in the 18th century, is it has an overlay of reason on it, right? We can all do that. We can all do Enlightenment thinkers. We can all do reason. But, she asks us, what happens to a principle that's destabilizing, such as liberty, that can give rise to strong emotions and violence in a country that thinks it's based on reason? And she argues that there's an essential tension, and I would argue we see that in the coins, between a liberty that's innate within us or a liberty that we think we can grab and choose. And we all know, you guys have all read this, right? How do you justify, if you have an understanding of liberty and reason, how do you justify slavery? If you have an understanding of liberty and reason, how do you take women who actually fought on revolutionary fields and turn them back into domesticated housewives? Reasonably, using logic, it can't happen. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Okay. So we exchange wildness for symbols. Now, this is probably a medal that was sent to us. We have a hello@thelibertyfoundation.org, and a guy named Glenn Schroeder sent this to us and said, can you tell us what this is? And this is supposedly from 1865. You probably can't see it very well, but you'll know this. There's a medal of Lincoln that looks like this. This is Lincoln looking very Greek, right? Or actually probably more Roman. And Washington on the other side. And I think it's interesting, this sort of positioning post-Civil War of how do you fight for liberty? Who fights for liberty, right? And you've got another interesting twist there, the general who becomes the president and the president who becomes the commander-in-chief or the general. Okay, so I realize that's a little bit of a red herring, but, you know, I'm indulging myself, so. All right, now, masculine pragmatism. I spent a month and a half in Teddy Roosevelt land. I just went into a deep, deep dive. And he's fascinating, completely fascinating figure. You know, most of us can do national parks, right? The Teddy Roosevelt National Parks, and we move on from there. But he was really, really ahead of his time in many ways. He wrote an undergraduate thesis at Harvard on civil rights for women, or equal rights for women. He argued women should not take their husband's name when they get married. Eventually, the Bull Moose Party in 1912, which was also known as the New Progressive Party, part of their platform becomes equal rights for women, or suffrage for women, not the same thing. And so we have that, and yet we also have him having this anxiety about what American coins look like in comparison to European coins. And we come from, here is the sort of, oops, okay? That was a classic teaching move. I always thought that I would just die one day by tripping over something in the classroom. I didn't realize it would be here. So we have her there with her tiara, and then we have, we get to this guy in 1909, and obviously it's still exactly the same coin today. And I think that's an interesting thing that happens. Yes, we understand how we got to this coin, right? And apparently, as you guys I'm sure all know, this was in part, the country was feeling very warm and fuzzy towards Lincoln as you came up to 1909, which is the 100th anniversary of his birth. And so there's this whole desire to honor him. It also allows this sort of desire for the changing of coins. You move away from liberty as a concept to liberty as a person, right? And I think that's a really important change. And so one of the things that I would ask, and this is part of what Liberty Cap Foundation tries to do, is engage us with questions. So we'll see if you guys want to play. I hope you want to play. But what do you think? Does the unchanging Lincoln, we've had Lincoln for over 100 years now on the penny. And we were just an hour ago talking about the endless changes, right? Chain sense, liberty, you know, the wreath on the back, the strawberry wreath, all of these changes to hair. We've had an unchanging Lincoln. On some level, do you think this suggests a change about the way Americans encounter and think about and enact with liberty? Any thoughts?
I think there's a fear of changing it.
Ooh.
Who wants to raise their hand and say Lincoln's no good anymore? Because the response would be, what do you got that's any better?
And the controversy of what you pick is next would be so big that nobody wants to face it.
Love that. Okay, so isn't that classic, right? No, we're not breaking with there's no chance. Would we ever break with the mother country now? Probably not. We wouldn't want to upset anyone. Yeah, okay. All right, and so let's keep playing. Let's say the mint is listening, and there's a reasonable chance the mint is listening. Let's say the mint is listening. You, people who know 1794 coins, what would you put on a coin today? What for you would represent liberty? I've been thinking about this question a lot. I don't know what I would come up with, but anyone? I'm looking at you, Mark. No?
I have nothing.
Got nothing?
I was sure before they went the safe route of doing presidents
Yeah.
to retain when coins were artistic, you know.
And
Yeah.
allegorical liberty again.
Yeah,
More of liberty as a concept?
Yes.
I mean, most beautiful silver coins, started in 1860. After Lincoln came out, but when they wanted to change them, they
Mhm.
went to boring, safe presidents because that was the safest thing to
Because it's history and it happened. There's no, like him or not, he was there.
And
Okay.
then once he's there, it's safe, we don't have to change anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, we can't change
There's
anymore.
nothing more
We can't
beautiful
anymore.
than an 1816, standing living quarter, or, the $50 from 1816. You go from that, but then Franklin, not the most pleasant portrait ever designed, the Washington Quarter.
Yeah. Instead of these liberties
Yeah,
with,
instead of
the
beautiful
rays
artistic
and,
form.
yeah.
I think one of the challenges we have is that, what do we have, 40 people in the room, just ballpark? You're gonna get 40 different answers.
Yep.
80.
Right.
Somebody will change their mind.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think you're really onto something here, but I mean, suppose we set a new coin today, are we gonna put liberty on it, or are we gonna put some historical figure on it?
Can't go into
Yeah.
it.
We're gonna put a person on it, that's just where our culture is today.
And right now, it's gonna be a woman, and it's gonna.
If you look at the reverses of the quarters today, and some of the things they've done in the nickel over the last 20 years, and all the commemorative junk that they're stuff they're producing, there's a storyline
Hmm.
that's available in our coinage right now.
Hmm.
And, I don't know, I've never thought about this, but I don't know if I agree with the gentleman on the obverses necessarily being a perfect representation of liberty, but at least it preserves the opportunity to tell a now developed story about our nation on the reverses, on special issues and all that kind of stuff. They couldn't do that in 1793, we had nothing to say,
Yeah, yeah. And we had nothing to say, and we had confusion over what we'd done, right? I mean, some serious confusion, I think, over what we'd done. In fact, I went and did, in classic nerd fashion. This is Anne Bingham, and she was, Abigail Adams talked about her. She was at the Court of St. James. She's an American. People would say in England, she's so beautiful, even though she's American. Right? Was this thought. And supposedly she becomes the model for cents and quarters going into the 18th century.
Basically everything up through the gold coinage.
Right, up to everything up to the gold coinage.
But she wound up on all of them.
And she knew, and she corresponded with Jefferson, and told Jefferson, and Jefferson was decrying, I'm sure you guys know this, Jefferson is decrying how basically upstartish the French women are. And she says, actually they're onto something, and we, American women, should do the same thing. There's some text that you can go and look at where she supposedly makes the argument for him that there should be a Bill of Rights, and supposedly that influences Jefferson. No, I can find a lot of people saying that. I can't find any proof of that. But if we come back here, let's come to this one. This is fascinating to me because the copper was the humble copper, right? Anyone could have it in their hand.
Mhm.
And you are a bread baker, and you'll have a few coppers in your hand if you're lucky. What happens to the representation of liberty as perhaps an ideal when you turn it into a black woman and you put it on an ounce of gold that sells for over $3,000?
You're taking it out of people's hands.
You're taking it out of people's hands. And on the one hand, it would look like this is, okay, I'm really pushing the envelope here. I know I'm pushing the envelope, but let's just go out here. I think it's an interesting thing. On the one hand, you see where they're coming from, like, oh yes, we'll do something, we'll make her really valuable. And yet at the same time,
We're taking it away from the
we're
people.
taking it away from the people. How many people can afford this? In 2018, this is 2017, in 2018, they mint another one, it's 1/10, it's worth $390. That's still way more than 1 cent. And you've taken her out of the pocket. And I think the other thing that's interesting is she's looking backwards. Now, we could play with what we make of her looking backwards. Is this a rectification of the past? You can see the references to, I think, to the other coins, right? Braided hair. You have braided hair here. We have the diadem in a slightly different way. Her chin is up. She has a same sort of unwavering look. And yet, she's exclusive. So I wonder what you make of this.
Suppose you can't put it on the copper coin, or it'd be cheapening the history, right?
Not necessarily.
I think that's a fascinating question. Not necessarily.
I was gonna suggest another version of that, maybe liberty is priceless.
Maybe liberty is priceless. But then what happens to a country that fights for liberty for all? What happens to our founding documents if you say liberty, well, yeah, liberty is priceless, and yet liberty is $3,295?
Close to the prices you would get from They try really hard to make things priceless.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys make of this?
The other factor was for the ounce coin and the 10th ounce, they raised the face value of those coins too. That was $100, and the 10th ounce was $10, not $5.
Oh, very
So
interesting.
the face value of the coin was increased along with this design. But after this design wasn't used, they have not put those same values on future gold coins. They're still $50 and $5.
What do you make of that change?
I think they're trying to tell us, oh, this is what we want the country going. I think they were trying to push us in a direction, whether we wanted to go that direction or not. But I think by doing that, I think they're trying to push us into a direction somehow. But that's just my interpretation.
Giving the Mint marketing department too much credit for thinking. They're thinking what will sell.
I did not want to go too far into this because I really wanted us to think about liberty, but I'm sure you guys have seen the commemorative coins between Liberty and Britannia. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
And you've seen the one that they've chosen, which is sort of a yin-yang thing. But did you see the pictures before they made the choice? What my favorite is the sexy Britannia meets the sexy Liberty, and I'm not kidding. It looks like something out of a manga cartoon, right? Like they got their big chest and they've got their hair thrown back. It's like, have you lost your minds? Clearly, someone said, no, we absolutely can't do that, because then you've objectified women as much as you possibly can, and then you stick them on a commemorative coin, and that becomes problematic for almost everyone, I hope. So. All right. Any other thoughts? Anything else?
Yeah, I just don't view this coin as the imprimatur or the putting forth of the concept of liberty. I just view it as another sort of crass commercial offer.
I love that. So the exclusive. Okay. What would you make of the word if I said exclusivity, capitalism? What if we said representing liberty as capitalism? So does that allow us then, if we think of it that way, does that allow us to recuperate a real liberty that works for all of us, besides maybe Lincoln?
Would you rephrase that question?
I will rephrase that question. If we think of this as a marketing ploy, as something that's not really within a sequence, right? Because what I've been arguing in some ways is a sequence. If she is not the end of a sequence, if she is marketing, then does that allow us to rethink who she is, a marketing ploy, a moment of capitalism, and it would allow us another image, which would be representing liberty now. We've talked about what you guys think she might be, but maybe what the real principle of liberty is now.
Are you reading too much into this?
No, I am an English professor.
There's two aspects. One is the physical aspects of coin manufacturing.
Yep.
Dictates some designs. Most of these trends transcend 120 years, the magic number for the way people live. You've lost 50 years in the large set, which had the Indian head said,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, if you try to read stories into it,
Yeah,
you
and
don't have, the foundation is extraordinarily weak.
we,
Not your foundation, but the foundation of your assumptions.
my argument, basically.
Your
My argument is extremely weak. Well, okay, I think we have on the website some material on the presentation of, and I think I've written a post on the Indian head coin. And if you look at that from a number of different perspectives, and there's scholars who've written about this, that it is an Anglified vision of what a native person looks like. So,
Except for the buffalo.
expect,
We
we got ourselves a buffalo there, yeah. So I think that there's, I don't really think that's true, because I think especially in the 21st century, and I would argue in the late 20th century, we've lost the ability to read signs in general. And in the 18th century, they lived in a much richer world in terms of what images meant. They saw far fewer images. Many people didn't have mirrors. What you saw, if you saw a coin, that was a big deal. You would, we've read Sheldon Penny Whimsy, right? You would hold that in your hand and you would scrutinize that. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I am overreading. Maybe I'm overreaching with the exclusivity at the end, but I would argue that in a world that's not subsumed by images, what you saw in your hand, what represented, and I've written about this for the Euro, when the Euro was starting, have an article on how do you represent the EU, right? It is, yeah, and that is really tough, right? So that question of representation is, I think, absolutely essential. Yeah.
To support what you say, imagery predates America by thousands of years.
Thousands,
The Romans
yeah.
did this on their coin.
Yeah.
But your capitalism question has me thinking about the complex agenda that went into that coin.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in a major social battle in this country. We just are. And that was I think a strong effort put forward about trying to, represent some people who just weren't represented in the past, whether she in particular is looking left or right. I think that may go to what Ed's saying, we're looking too deeply.
Mm-hmm.
But the capitalism thing, though, I don't know that, well, we'll see. That's just our model, and it's part of their model.
Absolutely.
We're a socialist state with some capitalists running around doing very well because we provide enough room for that.
Mm.
And I don't want to change it, frankly. But I think we do a decent job of caring for most people who need care.
Mm.
Not perfect, but a heck of a lot better than many of our other brethren. And I don't know that we're trying to represent any of that here.
Mm.
I think it's just I just think it's another step along the way, starting with the Greeks and Romans.
Mhm.
We're trying to represent our values a little bit more effectively
Yeah.
today than we did when it was just David George running around.
Right, and that's why I think this is so interesting, this penny. Maybe it really is time to think of what that value really is now. Because I'm not even sure we even see this word anymore. Not so.
Melanie, a quick comment. What this brought to my mind, we looked at the chain scent and the links and how some people interpreted those links as chains of bondage, when only less than 20 years earlier, on the continental currency and on the continental dollar, the 13 links were meant to be of unity. So in just a short period of time, we go from the links meaning unity to some people interpreting the links as links of bondage and Miss Liberty's running in fright. So I look at it as, wow, how fluid we are, how we can change our perception, whether we agree with it or not.
Yeah.
But then we get to the modern age where we have the African American girl. And I had some of my friends tell me, oh, they'd never buy that. But I thought, and I forget what iteration is that, when did that start with the mint? 1982, it was the Grecian-looking lady with the wreath over her head, is that right, 1982? And then the next iteration, I don't remember the sequence, but we have a horse, we have the African lady, we have I think an Indian princess, which I didn't think was done too right, but there was one, and then we have the eagle, the recent one. I'm out of kilter on that. But look at what the mint has done with representing liberty. A bird, a horse, Miss Liberty, a female. I don't know, it just brings that to mind. And I think the only reason why that came to mind is because of this. Lucky me.
Well,
Well done.
well, thank you. So I would say let's cultivate your curiosity, right? One of the things that we have are 1794. I hope you guys all like that. Right? $1,794 micro grants. It's our first year starting it, so we're starting small. We have 5 micro grants that we'll be giving out. We hope next year to expand that. And the thing that I love about these is that they're available for everyone, for anything. And when we say everyone and anything, we really mean that. We want you to dream big. If you are 13 and you really want to go to New York to go to the ANA and your parents are willing to let you go and you need money for your plane fare, we will pay for that. If you are an artist and you're obsessed with copper and you need copper foil for your art project, we will pay for that. We want you, and I hope the you here, right? 1794 is not going to buy you anything, but realistically. But what we hope is that it spreads out to people, and that people use it as a gateway. That teachers might want money for projects, and so on. So it is, and I mean this in the best of ways, right? Talking about that, it is a democratic project about liberating your liberty to think creatively for $1,794, right? If only that was in 18th century terms, that would be a lot of money. It would be a lot of money. So with that, I'd say thank you very much. Please follow us. I appreciate the challenge to the ideas. That's what we're after. Hello at the Liberty Cap Foundation goes to me. And we've got some really clever social media. We were at the Fun Show, and we were doing what Liliana and company were doing. So we have some interviews with people that you will recognize. We have the rights up. We have interviews with Alan Ross. We have some interviews with Sam. So please come and check us out, and thank you. Oh yeah, any questions? Sorry, any questions at all?
Have there been any 1794 grants yet, or is it just?
No, we've just put them together.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I stopped everything. You're good. Okay. We just put them out, and so what we have is it's open enrollment until they're gone. So we have 5 available now. What we'll do is a countdown on the website. You can go to the website under funding.
Okay.
And what you'll find is, what we'll do is we'll just do it as a countdown, how many we funded.
Great.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah, thank you.
Other questions? Scott?
I just think everything was wonderful until you got to the modern junk that the mill is pushing, and I think that all of the efforts to romanticize it, fail on account of the fact that it's the mint with their agenda to make money. And I love mentoring young people. And I'm mentoring a 14-year-old right now who's got the red book and is learning how to grade coins and so on and so forth. And my first words of advice were, don't buy any junk from the mint. You know, have your dad get coins from the bank. Go to a coin show. He would be here, except that today's his mother's birthday.
I wanted you here to see this.
Okay. All right, so interesting, and thank you for that caution about the mint.
You know, I did not quite get it took me a long time to figure out that the black woman on the coin could be facing left. I looked at it and I see her facing right, and you remarked, she's looking backwards, and it took me a good long time, thanks to you, just finally figure out, yeah, I get it.
Actually, though, when you look at her, she's turned around, she's facing forward. She may
Huh?
be facing the left, but she's facing
Oh,
forward.
her shoulders are here and she's looking over her shoulder.
No, she's not looking over her shoulder. She's got both shoulders turned. She's looking forward. Oh, she's facing left, but she's looking forward.
Okay, I see what you mean, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
She's also facing a date she never wanted to go back to.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah, which I think is interesting, yeah. Okay.
So, I'm throwing this question out to the group. Good for you. Would there be any answers from the Citizens Advisory Council if we contacted them? Like, how did you pick this, and did you think about these things, or did they just throw the mail in the junk pile? What do you think? They can give us an answer?
I can add a little something to that. They have the artist bio on the Mint website, talking about all the pieces that she's made and so forth.
Oh,
Phoebe Hempel is her name.
really interesting.
She did the Obama commemorative coin as well.
Interesting. Okay, there's a lot to think about there. Yeah, thank you for that.
I don't really follow the market, so probably do.
This committee, I would be interested in writing to them. Yeah. Right, well, it's hot. Very hot.
You're just not discovering that?
Yeah, I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melanie. Folks, we're all done. We'll see you at the presentations next year.
All right.